We'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity with Women. If you're thinking, why is a man doing a podcast on women? That's a good question, right? I have been married to my wife for 40 years, so I don't know. That gives me some level of credibility, I would think. I would think that would be a much better, higher credential than a PhD in understanding women's studies. In addition to that, I have four daughters. I would think that would give you a double or triple PhD. And then I have six granddaughters, and I work with a whole bunch of women. And I have for years. So we were talking in the pre-podcast, and you all can participate. Please speak for other women. So if you think I'm chauvinistic, say I think that's chauvinistic or whatever the word is, it is whatever it is. So, as a father of four daughters, I want my daughters not to have to depend on men for financial. Like, for multiple reasons, for multiple reasons. And so we were talking about swim lessons. So our grandkids, we have 10 grandkids. And so, our little third youngest, I think he's two, Mikey, was in swim lessons. And I was there yesterday and I saw all of the swim instructors. Every one of them in the pool yesterday was a woman. And it's probably a 30-to-1 ratio. Like it's once in a while you see a man or two, a young man or two, but they're almost all women, like almost all women. And so Rosanna, my wife, went ahead and said, well, if they're earning a money, so I made the observation, why is it women? Why aren't there men there? So women will tend to be drawn to certain occupations and men are drawn to other occupations. And so one of the occupations that a woman is drawn to is going to be, teaching, a bulk of the women are teachers. Another is nursing. And so women are drawn to certain occupations. And there's all this stuff out there about how women get paid less than men. I'm not saying that never happens for sure. Again, sometimes women just bug the living daylights out of me. They don't listen well. They say men don't listen. Let me tell you, girls, ladies, you don't listen well either. And you're so full of drama. Oh, that's stereotyping. Why am I? Listen, I have a wife and four daughters and six granddaughters. And yes, my sons, they will have drama too, but not like the girls. My gracious, it's crazy. And so certain occupations have like higher risk of death. If you have a higher risk of death, you probably ought to get, paid more. But policemen don't go ahead and get paid more than business owners do, and there's not a risk of death, but there's risk and there's work and there's sacrifice and there's a whole bunch of things. And so it's complicated. It's not black and white. It's not just simple. It's complicated. So Rosanna asked in the pre-show, she says, why is it a problem or whatever that if they're earning money, like, why is that a problem? And maybe you can articulate it better, Rosanna. Or not.
Why is there a challenge? Why does it seem to be a challenge? Why'd you bring it up about women being in the swim lessons? If they're earning money, what is the gist of it?
Because they're not probably many or most. And this is the thing that just irritates me about women is it's like they don't listen and they go ahead and they can't see certain details. It's like they're blind to details. But then all of a sudden they're really hypersensitive to certain details and they ignore other details and they don't. It's just weird. And so when you say women, often women are like, you're stereotyping. You, like, I just want to say, are you ignorant or stupid? Like, what's the difference? Ignorant is not knowing what to do, is stupid is not doing what you know. Like, okay, ignorant or stupid. And so when somebody says men, they're not talking about 100% of the men 100% of the time. So men, when you stereotype men, when women stereotype men, it's just everybody accepts it. Nobody challenges it. But when you stereotype women, same thing. Women get all hot and bothered about it. And so, as a general rule, those women do not feel the pressure of financial that men their age feel. It's just a fact of life. It's not 100% of the women. If you're like, Mark, that's not true with 100%. You're just stupid because I've already educated. I'm not saying 100% of the women 100% of the time. I'm saying as a general rule, those women, like Rosanna and I went to a marriage seminar, and the husband gave most of the presentation, the wife gave some, and she said women are lucky. They have lots of options. Men are not. They have two options. You work or go to prison. Like those are your two options. So, like, what did you want to do when you graduated? What was your dream of an occupation, Rosanna?
Be an elementary education teacher.
Right. And what did I do when I graduated from college?
Went into sales.
And what's the last thing in the world that I wanted to do?
Go into sales.
And what's the thing you did when you graduated from college?
Had babies.
And what is it your dream? What was your dream to do, you know, as a woman?
To get married, have babies, and teach kindergarten.
So you wanted to teach kindergarten. And that was the dream. Like you wanted to teach kindergarten, right?
Yes.
And that was a dream. That was what you wanted to. And being in sales was a nightmare. So you would think that it would be a lot easier to pursue a dream than a nightmare, right?
Yes.
I don't think that's a complicated question. Is he trying to trick me? Like, so who pursued, did you pursue your dream more than I pursued my nightmare?
No.
No. I worked far harder to go ahead and you had kids, so we had 7 kids. So you didn't, you tried, I think you applied once when the kids got older and they were, pretty much on their own. You applied once to be an elementary education teacher, and then you just stopped. You just applied once. You didn't push. You didn't go in multiple places. Didn't go in. You just tried once and it didn't happen and you didn't do it. So it's not a big deal. It's fine. It's just the understanding. Women have an understanding, you know, men are different and they just don't whine about it. So women aren't aware. Men, I think, are very much aware of women's issues because women whine a lot. They just do. Not all women all the time. If you're one of the women that doesn't whine, praise God. That's awesome. You have if you're married, you have a very fortunate husband. But if you don't whine, he might not be as responsive as a husband, whose wife does whine. Like I'm just saying, like that might be your issue. Like, like you might be like, like, if I was one of those whining wives, maybe I would get more. Maybe I would get him to be more responsive, more listening, whatever. And so men are just by and large, they're wired. Their responsibility is I need to provide for my wife and my kids. So they're going to be focused on making money. So they're going to do things they don't like to do more so than women. like I did coming out of college. I went in, and I went into 100% straight commission position. Why did I do that, Rosanna? In sales.
To make money to support our family.
Why didn't I take one of the other six positions? I mean, I could have made a lot of money on those other six job offers that I had, salary, car benefit, all of that. So why did I do something I didn't like to do?
Uh, because that's the way you are.
But why? What was my algorithm? What was my thinking in my brain?
That there would be more chance of growth, more chance of succeeding.
So did
What
I
do they
do it
call that?
because I
Going
was
up.
an amazing man, a husband, and a father, and I just, made all these sacrifices, for, my family?
Yes and no.
That's exactly right. I could have taken a job where I was in management. I had six, seven job offers coming out of college. One of them was 100% straight commission. I didn't want to do sales, didn't like salespeople, never wanted to be one. And I knew I wouldn't be good at it because I'm too honest and too direct. But I would rather die in the jungle than live in the zoo. I did not want to work for somebody else. And straight commission sales gave me that opportunity. So it's WIFM. What's in it for me? The concept of selfless selfishness. And so, being aware of this, I think is really, really important for women. I think it's really, and men are not honest with women, and women are not honest with men. They're just not. Being 60 years old, being married for 40 years, having seven kids, 10 grandkids, you know what? I've earned some stripes. I've done my time. I can be more honest with women. I just can. And love them to pieces and want them to be successful and don't want them to have to depend on a man. But guess what, ladies? If you're not going to depend on a man, you're going to have to go ahead and work harder. You're going to have to make more sacrifices. You're going to have to take risk. And my mom, I adored her. She passed like 7, 8 years ago. And she was a strong woman, always a homemaker, always a housewife. But boy, did she drive us kids. Wow. And all six of the kids are business owners, like every one of them. Like they're all entrepreneurial. She was an amazing woman. Respect her like crazy. And so I think a lot of times, I think women are hungry for the truth, and I don't think anybody's telling them the truth. When I say nobody, I don't mean nobody. I mean, as a general rule, their pastors are not telling them the truth. I mean, they get up in front of church and they say, if mama's not happy, nobody's happy, and everybody giggles and laugh. It's like, I just want to stand up and say, that is not my wife. That is not my mom. That's not the women in my life, because those kind of women, they're entitled. They're self-centered, self-absorbed. They think they're the center of the universe. If I'm not happy, I'm going to make everybody's life miserable. That's what I want to stand up in church and just rebuke the pastor and say, you're teaching just crazy heresy. That's what I want to do. Anyways, and so it's like the pastor's not, their husband's not, nobody's, like, everybody's afraid of women. I wasn't afraid of my mom. I respected her like crazy. But she was 75 when she passed, when she died, and she had a tumor in her stomach, stage 4 cancer. They gave her 2 to 6 months to live. She lived 18 months. It's another whole story. But I mean, she's got cancer and she got a tumor. And I'd say, Mom, women bug me. And she'd be like, it's just her and I on a date night. And she'd say, what do you mean? And I'd say, this is some women, man, they irritate me. She's like, that's not women. She'd get all poosty with me, all sassy. She'd get all angry with me, but it was fine. That's the kind of relationship. And a day or so later, we'd be talking, and I've been thinking about what you said. You know what, Mark? You're right about women. I'm like, right, Mom? Like, I could be honest with her. And so, questions or thoughts that anyone has,
I think this would be good for the marriage podcast too.
right? And man, if you're listening to this, you say, you go, brother. Like, man, I can't even tell you how many men are like, I can't believe you just said what you said to your wife on a podcast. Man, you got courage or you're stupid. Like, I don't know what you are. I don't know if you're brave. It's like, so men, you know, if you're listening to this, like I am passionate about women and they're beautiful. I mean, inside, outside. I absolutely love and adore women. I think men ought to open doors. I think men ought to treat them. I think men, you know, like women are just absolutely, they're beautiful, but they're strong in areas that nobody's building them up in. And that it's unfortunate in today's society. I mean, I could get off on so many topics where women are hurting women. Nobody's telling them the truth. Women aren't telling them the truth. Men are. I mean, um, Kanisha, um, or yeah, Kanisha. Like it was cool. Like you listen to her podcast. She's a black woman. I think she said she was 66 or 68, something like that. So she's a few years older than I am. She got fire. Man, she got fire. So you get a chance to listen to her podcast. She inspires. Like she's not afraid of anything. Like she speaks more truth into the world than I do. Like she's like, wow, like bring the heat on. I love it. Anybody else have anything else connecting questions on this?
No, I think
Or
that it's very important for us to remember as women how good we have it.
Mary Jo,
Some of
did you
us.
have something?
for the women that are more focused on where they want to get career wise, I guess what is a great piece of advice for them?
Um, I don't know if I'd call it great advice. I'd just say it's observations in life. Um, I do work with a lot of women, a lot of young women, and they bring energy that men don't have, and that's okay. Some of that energy I love, and some of it not as much. Um, and um, so I think that like there's a lot of young women, there's a lot of women in the world. There's a lot of men. There's a lot of older men. I don't really think I'm old as a 60-year-old, but some might say that. My kids do periodically, which is fine. Um, I think I think older men learning to go ahead and work with younger women in business is very powerful. There's dangers, of course, and there's needs to be guardrails, caution for everybody's protection and care. But I think young women, I think young women learning how to go ahead and bring value to older men that have decades of experience and so many contacts and so many networks. They can help a young woman accomplish more in 2 or 3 years and get herself into a position where she has the economic engine. And then if she wants to be married and have kids, she could go ahead and work from home, work part-time, and she could, if she spends 2, 3 years to get the foundation in place. And then with, more mature women, uh, they have so much. Younger women should listen to older women, more mature women. And so I see how young women go ahead and treat more mature women, and I just want to, I don't know, something. Like I just want to shake the young women and say, you don't understand. Like you think about my wife, 40 years married to an entrepreneur, 7 kids, 3 boys, 4 girls, 10 grandkids. She's she's been a helpmate in the business. I couldn't have survived without her. She has so much wisdom. I would think young women would be talking to her all the time. Like, what do you do in this situation? How do you handle this situation? She's got a wealth of knowledge. It's unbelievable. But then I've also seen in business how older, more mature women treat younger women. And I'm appalled. I'm like, how can you treat younger women? Like, it doesn't make any sense. The mistreatment of women with other women is absolutely, we have 2 daughters that are close in age, and they were 5 and 7 years old. And I overheard them getting into a verbal fight. And I'm like, wow, they're mean and nasty. They know how to hit. Wow, do they know how to hurt? And so I think anything you can do, like I started off really young in business and I put my time in and invested a lot, took a lot, made a lot of work and sacrifice. So I think doing that at a young age and building up the systems, getting a boss, a business operating system, getting with a good network of people where you help them and they help you, to where it's a community where you're growing together. All of the responsibility is not on you. Like we can accomplish so much more than we can on our own. I think getting into the life GPS, getting part of communities, using technology to leverage things. I think all of those things are key. So if you're listening to the rebroadcast of this, you have any questions, definitely connect with the individual who invited you to participate in today's session. And any other questions beyond that, feel free to connect and call toll free at 888-230-2300. That's 888-230-2300 outside the U.S., 630-393-9909. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.